Ladies and gentlemen, Larry from the Shiz Network here, back again. After a whole year, this video is finally made. I apologize for all the delays, but we finally did it. The top 20 PIFs with me and Nostradante. Enjoy.
My Little Punching Bag. This PIF starts off innocently enough. It shows a talking doll named Mandy and a little girl playing with her toys. After Mandy introduces herself, the little girl leaves the room. It is then that Mandy tells us that we can tell her secrets, just like how the little girl tells her secrets.
You can tell me all your secrets. My best friend Ellie tells me hers.
Mandy then reveals a secret told to her by the little girl. And it is indeed a grim one.
Her mummy comes into her room and punches her 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 and punches her.
It is as if Mandy felt mandated to tell us this secret in an effort to get you, the viewer, to somehow help with this ongoing dreadful situation. The PIF then ends with a narrator giving us a call to action for abused children.
Help us be there for children. Visit thereforthem.com.
Mandy repeats the words and punches her near the end as if she herself were broken, damaged, beaten. This is horrifically analogous to the heinous physical abuse the unfortunate little girl has to deal with. Now, in most PIFs dealing with domestic violence and abuse, it is usually a man that is shown to be a villain. But this PIF lets us know that women too, the girl's mother, can be just as cruel and heartless as men. One can only wonder how often this little girl has to endure such pain and torture.
Hell's Bells. This PIF basically shows the jaws of life being performed on multiple people who got into car accidents. All while this is happening, a very creepy version of Jingle Bells, which is sung by children by the way, plays in the background.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh.
The reason this PIF makes the list is because it shows very graphic images of injured people while this song is playing. It can somewhat provoke fear due to the rather unnerving concoction of happy Christmas music with real-life horror.
The Gift of Death. From the very beginning, this PIF wastes no time in getting your attention and setting the mood for something terrible. It begins with a rather distorted soundtrack supplemented with burnt-out black and white video clips of sick, dying, and dead children from Africa. Using only text and no voices, the PIF then touches on to the fact that most people dislike being asked for money. So it doesn't. Instead, it asks for your old shoe boxes just before it shows images of dead children being packed up in boxes. Why? The final narrative text then informs you that the organization tasked to helping these children is now running out of coffins. If you have kept up with international news from the 90s, this PIF is addressing the result of a horrific genocide in the African country of Rwanda that has devastated thousands of people, including the children that will now rest in peace inside of a shoebox. Short, grim, and indeed effective.
Your worst nightmare. This PIF isn't so much as scary as it is weird. It shows 3 kids watching TV, and then an old man walks in, most likely their dad, and says this.
Je suis le robot. Bienvenue du côté sombre de l'espace.
Not quite sure what he's saying, but he's talking in a disturbing Darth Vader-like voice in French. What's also really bizarre is the music. It seems random that they picked a generic drum and bass song as the background music for this PIF. The PIF is supposed to be an anti-smoking campaign, but there's nothing about this PIF that makes sense. One thing's for sure, it's regarded as one of the scariest PIFs ever.
Carbon monoxide killer. This PIF starts off like many, calm, unassuming, peaceful. This one shows a lady coming home from a date and preparing for a well night's rest, complete with some radiant warmth from her heater. Feeling content, she finally lays down and gets some shut-eye. We are then greeted by a close-up of the heater. The night goes by, and the alarm clock says,
Good morning.
But this morning is anything but good. Then the narrator, accompanied by foreboding music, tells us exactly why.
Carbon monoxide from faulty gas appliances can kill. By law, landlords must have all appliances they provide safety checked by Corby registered installers. Ask for proof now, or tonight it could be you.
We then see that the woman's whole body, now a sickly grayish color, has now entered the eternal sleep. The change of tone, the silent death, the sickly skin color, the narrator's warning.
Or tonight it could be you.
A perfect concoction for a scary PIF.
Stones bleed? Wow, Mr. Bean snuck his way into a PIF. This almost reminds me of the famous drug PSA with Pee Wee Herman, except it's actually creepy. This PIF shows actor Rowan Atkinson, the man who played Mr. Bean, berating a stone for being cold and not donating blood to help others with diseases and other medical operations. He then taps the stone, and what follows is not only a shocking twist ending, but also one of the most creepiest lines ever spoken in a PIF.
Oh, thank you.
Just the way he delivers that line is so unsettling. Try imagining he's in a situation with a child and listen to that again with your eyes closed. He sounds like a pedophile when he says that. Scary.
Attack of the 50-foot penis. This PIF can be best described as extremely disturbing. It begins with a little girl resting in her bed, but she is not alone. Crawling on her body as she rests is what could be best described as a serpentine phallus, complete with a texture similar to human skin and a light coat of hair. What makes this worse is that the entire PIF shows the little girl in different stages of her life, from little girl up to being an elderly woman, and no matter where she is or what she's doing, the offending appendage is still there. Even worse, she can feel it, she can sense it, but she never actually looks at it. No one else can see it either. In the bed, On dates, even at family gatherings, the appendage is ever present. The PIF then mercifully comes to an end when the woman dies and is placed in a casket. Then, and only then, does this abomination finally let the woman rest. The appendage in question is a horrific representation of the sexual abuse this person dealt with as a child that forever followed her to her death. A chilling analogy to the pain, fear, and suffering that sexually abused victims deal with on a daily basis.
The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water. Despite this PIF being regarded as one of the scariest PIFs of all time, this is actually one of my favorites. However, it makes the list because even though it doesn't scare me personally, I do see why people would call it scary. It shows clips of children playing near ponds and rivers as they fall into the water and drown. The physical spirit, who looks like a black shaded Ku Klux Klan member, is the embodiment of liquid suffocation, also known as drowning. When children fall into the water, the spirit uses his power to drown them. However, he has no power over sensible children. These kinds of kids know to stay away from the water, and so therefore the spirit cannot use his ability to drown them. This PIF makes the list because of the dark atmosphere, disturbing subject matter, and creepy yet well done voice performance by Donald Pleasance. Even with that, it's still one of the most memorable and best PIFs of all time.
Ew, Wolfie.
I'll be back.
Famine. This PIF starts off with quite the happy tone. It shows a beautiful baby girl named Sally Matu lying happily in bed in an unattended hut, with a narrator commenting positively about her growing stronger daily.
This is Sally Matu. Every day she grows stronger and stronger. In recent years and against overwhelming odds, infant deaths have been reduced by 30%. Soon, Sally Matu will be inoculated to protect her from polio, measles, and diphtheria.
However, the narrator then informs us about the one thing that Sally Matu cannot be vaccinated against.
But there's one killer we can't inoculate her against. Famine.
With a scare cord, a rather large vulture swoops down in front of the hut, and the narrator ominously whispers the word famine. Sally Matu's smile, once vibrant, has now faded to a look of concern and then outright fear. As the PIF continues, more vultures descend upon the front of the hut. The PIF then ends with a freeze frame, a terrified look upon Sally Matu's face, and then a fade out with a phone number set upon a black, silent screen. The vultures themselves, almost saurian in appearance, are symbols of famine, decay, and death. It is as if they are awaiting the demise of our star, who is currently defenseless against impending doom. The sudden shock of the raptorial birds breaking the friendly tone of the PIF, the fading happiness of the child, the ominous final words of the narrator, the freeze frame and fade out, and the black screen at the end all coalesce to create one foreboding and frightening PIF.
The Corner of Ignorance. This creepy 1989 PIF shows a young woman trying to speak. Instead of speech, we hear the sounds of what is supposed to be a dying electric guitar. The sound then progressively gets worse and more uneasy as the woman is breaking down into tears and as the cameraman slowly backs away from her, presumably because she's insane. By the way, she's trapped in a corner for some reason. It's never explained in the PIF why she's trapped. Well, anyway, this PIF is so unnerving to watch. The guitar sound is probably the #1 reason for why this PIF is as creepy as it is. It's just really unnerving.
The old switcheroo. If there was ever a PIF that could start suspense from the beginning by presenting a very common and nerve-wracking scenario, then this is it. A businessman parks his car on the top level of a garage by himself and starts walking towards the exit when suddenly another man emerges from the exit. A hooded man with his head down, with his hands in his pocket, walking with a purpose towards our star. Just as the hooded man reaches the businessman who is preparing for his end, the screen cuts to black. Then some text pops up stating that 3 men are killed in Britain every day. As the black screen disappears, we come back to the scenario, and we see that the hooded man has actually walked past the businessman. But the horror doesn't stop there. The businessman then looks at his would-be adversary, but with a very concerned and confused look on his face. And we can see why. We are now treated with a scene where the hooded man stands on the edge of the garage barrier, frozen, and then willingly falls down to the streets below, face first. Then text telling us that we can prevent suicide with a safety hotline appears. Simplistic and effective, with so much realism behind the setting, makes this PIF indeed a frightening one that hits home with many people.
Smile, though it's terrifying. This PIF is easily one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. The whole PSA basically revolves around abuse. Essentially, the woman uses the makeup to cover up all her cuts and bruises on her face, only for it to gradually appear back onto her face. In some instances, she even removes the makeup to show her bruises. Right after doing this, she screams at the top of her lungs as if she's about to get murdered. The overall dark atmosphere, the scream at the end, the fading to the black screen, makes this a very unsettling yet realistic PIF.
Grindhouse for foxes. Unlike some of the other PIFs on this list, there is nothing lighthearted or deceptive about this PIF. It starts off with the camera lowering to the ground, and then going to a first-person perspective of an animal running. It quickly becomes apparent that something is chasing our star. We then hear heavy, labored breathing, and observe as the animal attempts to dodge and hide from its adversary, but to no avail. After almost getting hit by a car and then reaching a den, we now notice the camera is slowing down. The screen distorts and becomes discolored. Bizarre, cringing sounds can be heard. We are then treated to what sounds like gunshots and brief subsequent horrific images of foxes that have been mauled, eviscerated, and ripped apart by hunting dogs. The PIF then literally pleads with a black background and text saying, "For pity's sake, ban fox hunting now." One needs not to explain why this PIF is absolutely the stuff of nightmares. It is so bad that there exists an alternate version of this PIF that shows slightly less graphic photos of dead foxes. The most notable image is of the close-up of a mauled fox's face, complete with a seemingly pupilless, glowing, open eye. According to people commenting on this PIF on video websites, it still terrifies people to this very day, despite being over a decade old. A testament to the power of a visually and audibly austere message.
Catwalk Chaos. Warning, this PIF is not for the faint of heart. Skip this entry if you're squeamish. This PIF from 1985 shows a beauty pageant involving fur coats. At first, it doesn't seem all that bad, until you see this. That's right. The fur coat that the woman was wearing was submerged with blood. It's so incredibly disgusting to watch. By the way, what's up with the music in the beginning? It sounds like a generic singer with a massive hiccup problem. Well, anyway, the PIF was criticized for its disturbing content. The original version of this PIF simply ended with the woman dragging the fur coat, thereby not ending with a message. They then later added the 40 dumb animals line to show what the PIF's subject matter was about. This PIF, while having an interesting art style, is still one of the most disturbing public information films nonetheless.
The Child Abuse Show. This PIF takes a rather unique approach to get its point across. It begins much like a television show, and it stars a real-life man and a cartoon boy who so happen to be father and son respectively. Throughout the entire PIF, the father regularly abuses his cartoon boy for various reasons, such as running through the house, watching TV all day, or not answering when asked a question. In classic cartoon fashion, the boy reacts to the violence with exaggerated responses, supplementary sound effects, and silly facial expressions. To some, this will be a bit off-putting, and to others, quite hilarious since it is a cartoon. However, as expected, the PIF takes a dark turn. In the last scene, the father attacks the boy for not answering a question.
Here you are. What are you up to? I just asked you what you're up to. You dirty bastard! Get out!
The boy is so scared he urinates on the father and on the floor, which then leads to him screaming vulgarities and then kicking the boy down the stairs. The boy bounces down the stairs in cartoon fashion and falls behind the couch. Then, as the cartoon pans past the couch, we see the boy is no longer a cartoon, but a normal, similarly dressed real-life boy. And he's not moving. All music and sound effects stop. The screen freezes on the now possibly lifeless boy. Then the text, "Real children don't bounce back," shows up with a hotline to put an end to the abuse. A very clever PIF with the utilization of cartoon physics and sounds with an emphasis on a real-life crisis that will be burned into the minds of those who gaze upon it.
The Scavengers. You thought Catwalk Chaos was bad? This one is even worse. I will warn you once again, if you're squeamish, do not watch. That being said, let's talk about it. This PIF features a bunch of rich snobs attending a fashion show. The PIF then builds up to a very frightening moment that will shock all of you. The snobs pull open a fur coat to reveal that it has been infested with slimy flies and maggots. The build-up and the startling synth chords only add to the terror. After that, there is a line at the end of the PIF on a black screen that reads, "When animals are killed for their fur, two kinds of scavengers move in." Obviously mentioning the fact that animals are killed every day and then their fur is taken to create fur coats. If this PIF doesn't scare you, then I don't know what does.
Psychohunting. This is a PIF that doesn't do anything initially shocking. Instead, this one prefers to take a progressive route of disturbing its viewers. It begins with a man dressed in equestrian-style clothing, supposedly mounting a horse with "A Haunting We Will Go" playing in the background. The song alone would rub a lot of anti-hunters and animal lovers the wrong way. As the PIF progresses, the song fades into a tune reminiscent of O Fortuna, with occasional interruptions of a black screen informing the viewer of the horrors of fox hunting. Everything from how the foxhounds are bred to the detailed demise of the fox is mentioned. As the PIF goes on, the man riding the horse begins to look more deranged and psychotic by the minute. The sky begins to darken. Even the horse looks less and less pleasant. Near the end, with the man's face taking on a most horrifying appearance, we see that he is actually in a huge dark room with large windows and flowing curtains while riding a rocking horse. Then, the man suddenly passes out, followed by a black screen asking the rhetorical question, "How do you get your kicks?" Some may say that this PIF is actually more hilarious due to the sheer delivery of the PIF with the epic music and a grown man looking like a psychotic child, but there's no doubt that given the subject material of animal cruelty and the behavior of this man, something is certainly off. His eventual transformation into a deranged killer, the environment changing into a more grim setting, and even the man's collapse from the rabid excitement of the prospect of killing a fox is pure nightmare fuel.
I've just shit me pants. This PIF from 1996 shows a photo of a raver. As the PIF progresses, the guy's face starts to grow spots and pimples as the photograph becomes more and more deformed. After that, the photo then starts to melt as if it was cheese. This is truly one of the scariest PIFs ever. It's another one of those drug PIFs that exists, and there's tons more scary ones out there, but this one is no exception. There's not much else I can say about this.
Spots, rotten teeth, depression, anxiety attacks, personality changes, paranoia. Take speed, ecce, or acid, and you can develop any of them.
blood money. There is no subtlety with this PIF. From the very beginning, it lets you know that this is as grim as it is going to get. It begins with a raven and a distorted fanfare which accentuates the dreary environment that looks more like a destitute, interdimensional void than planet Earth. We are then treated to visuals of groups of people from Africa that are either marching down a road or sitting and lying on the ground dead or dying while being surrounded by vermin. These clips are accompanied with somber music and a narrator with a booming, reverberating voice announcing repeatedly how the continent of Africa pays more in debt than it receives in aid.
In the last 12 months, Africa has paid out over 4 times as much in debt repayments as it has received in emergency aid.
As the PIF progresses, we then begin to notice what some of these people are carrying or leaving around. They are children, wrapped up in white cloth, lifeless. Then, the final destination of where these people are headed is clear. A huge cliff. We then see these people toss these wrapped up children off the cliff and into a gigantic piggy bank, waiting at the bottom while the repetitive narration begins to fade into the background. The PIF then ends on a horrific high note, a woman's distorted scream, and a freeze frame of her in mid-scream with the grim words, "Bury the dead, not the dead." The dreary, desolate environment, the booming narrator, dismal music, the forlorn and depressing state of the people, and the grave symbolization of the dead children being thrown into a gigantic piggy bank, which represents the cost Africa is paying, really drives home the point that massive debt isn't just an inconvenience to people, it is death. Both money and lives are thrown away, and judging by the message this PIF conveys, there seems to be no end in sight.
Boom. Headshot. This is the final time I'm gonna warn you. What you are about to see is not only, in my opinion, the scariest PIF ever made, but also the most graphic. So please do not watch if you're squeamish, and especially for the faint of heart, skip it or watch at your own risk. With that said, we will talk about this PIF from 2007. The PIF starts off with what seems to be a drug-dealing, gun-slinging stereotypical family coming in for a Sunday lunch. By the way, Sunday lunch is the real name of this PIF. It all gets insanely dark from here. The mother pulls out a gun from the shelf and does this. She shoots her own son in the head. What's even worse is that they show it in graphic detail. His brains literally splatter all over the rest of his family as they scream and cry in terror. The mother then goes into some kind of psychotic state and starts crying. The message of this PIF isn't even conveyed well for the subject matter as well. This PIF is the most shocking, disturbing, and scariest public information film I have ever seen. It's way too real, and that's probably why this PIF scares me to death. Thank you guys for watching this long-awaited PIFs list video. It was a heavy honor to have my cousin be a part of this video, but this will not be the only time we will be in videos together. We will be having more videos coming out for you guys in the future. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out my Shiz Network merchandise on the Spreadshirt website. And if you guys did enjoy it, be sure to subscribe for more videos from the Shiz Network. And I will be back with more list videos. And until then, peace out and deuces beyond the infinite. And as always, think for yourself.